All right. Welcome to the latest Metapolator video. Simon's here with me, and he's going to run us through his workflow as he's developing the Sean family using the latest Metapolator Moya tools, mixed with some more conventional tools.
Cool. Hello. So I want to show you quickly the process I'm using with Metapolator. It's less programming within CPS and a little bit more editing as Lasse version, but I'm going to screen share now. Okay, I'm using the shell, the upper left, to run Metapolator from the command line. Then I'm using RoboFont for the font editing, manual editing, fine tuning, and kind of to get the visual results. And I'm also using Sublime as a text editor to update or complete the CPS. So let's start with this glyph here. I opened the Devanagari Ha letter, and this is the base drawing. You can see it's built up with only by 3 strokes. Once I'm happy with the design, I can save the glyph with the correct naming and the Unicode, and add this glyph from the base to the CPS. I've got here a Devanagari CPS which links to all the 4 masters. So thin compressed, thin white, and black compressed are linked to that file. So I only need to place them once and not in all of them, because I'm using a kind of a generic CPS file, which is here. It's rather short, and that's all I need to work with the very fundamental transformations, like the glyph height, the glyph, the extending of the strokes, and then the stuff like overshoot here. All the possible overshoots are predefined, but only those that I'm tagging in the UFO gets activated. I can show this later. So we're working on the ha, and oops, I have to copy paste this first. In addition to that, I modified the import script, the shell script from last a little bit, and now it's loading only one glyph at a time into Metapolator. As we all know, Metapolator is still pretty slow to batch entire like full range fonts. So I'm only working one glyph at a time, and this script is running that glyph, and then once completed, copy that version into a temporary font that's shown on the corner here. Mm-hmm. After that, it gets copied to the already or to the final font. So the final font grows continuously. Okay, so in addition to the CPS, I have to update the naming for the UFO files, because the name convention in RoboFont is quite not strange, but it's just the fact that if you have underscores within the names already, it adds another underscore, right? So it's just to make sure that this goes right in, the right name goes into the list.
I see.
Okay, so this is the so I save those, and I also update always the list of the already existing glyphs. Save that one. Of course, you have to save the UFO, and then I can run shell subload. And you can see the Demerara glyph is being loaded, and no tags are imported because I didn't tag anything here. And now it's exporting the black compressed, black white. Thin white and thin compressed, hopefully. I think the computer is now a bit slower than usually because we're doing this screen recording. Okay, so it's done now. I switch back to RoboFont and get the message if I want to update all. If I click that, my 4 masters here gets updated with the glyph I'm working on. So in this case, it's the ha in all the 4 masters. Right. And they got also updated here in the final fonts. I'm keeping the temporary fonts as a kind of a buffer. So if something goes wrong, or I can check if the file is okay, and I can see if it needs too much fine tuning. I have to change. I have to go deeper into the CPS. So if it's okay and kind of okay, then I let it run and copy that glyph into the already updated final masters. Okay, so let's check what happened here. You can open that one. So that's the extended. We can see that the width kind of didn't scale properly, because I'm not sure if we can read the glyph width, but I never tried it so far. So because I'm gonna respace the whole fonts in the very last step. So I can go quickly through if there's a kind of pretty slow now. Here we can see that the strokes too short, so I just quickly pull this. They might get longer in the end in the spacing process, but you can see the curves are not too bad right now, and yeah. And here I have to change, I have to fix the one control point, because if the stroke is too compressed, you get kind of these back loops, and so you have to manually fix those. And you might also want to change some stroke endings, because on the extra wide it gets too sharp sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on the angle you get from the original. Sometimes it's good, sometimes you have to do some manual work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, once I'm happy with that, I save it and I switch over to Superpolator. I could also use basically I'm using Superpolator to get the preview of the instances, and but actually the Metapolator is doing exactly the same. So it's just a matter of speed. Okay, I have to open that one quickly. Okay, so here you can see that I already placed all the 45 instances in the design space. And I can preview my instances, and I want to get the letter H, so I switch back. Okay, there it is. So I can see that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then in the very end, when I'm happy with all the glyphs, I simply export all the instances, and I'm going to do some additional fine-tuning on each instance. Now I want to show you some design solution I came up with the corner problems. As you might remember, I presented this kind of corner knot to get these corners working with CPS.
Mm-hmm.
Now I figured out that actually you simply have to make sure those ending points of the strokes are on the very same location, because if you modify or scale a stroke, the angle of that ending is always within the calculation, so it's always right. So it's just a matter of you have to make sure that these points are really accurate placed, and then it's always the corner is always right. So you don't have to write any CPS for that. It's kind of built-in function, if you will.
So how does the overlap removal, where does that take place?
The overlap removal. What do you mean?
In your original master, then you've
Yes.
got these two strokes with the diagonals which bump up. And oh no, I see I can see the line now. I'm sorry, the video compression
Okay.
made it look like they diverged, but they haven't.
No. It's the overlaps are still there because I'm using it for Superpolator.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to keep the original structure as long as possible in my process.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's try to add a tag on the original glyph, base glyph. In this case, I'm trying it on the Devanagari 0, which is a bit smaller and a little bit different height as the original 0, the Latin one. So I'm going to add here. Now let's see first. Let's see right here. There. Or maybe the sync compressed. Okay. That's the one I previously rendered. So I put here a guideline marked with demo X. Let's assume that there's a virtual X line for whatever, and now I want to move that point a little bit higher to get the overshoot right. And this on all the four masters. So I have to tag the original base glyph with the tag. It's called over top, and this gets read by the CPS. Change the glyph I want to edit in Metapolator. And for example, here that's pretty peculiar. I have to put an underscore in between the word 0 to make it work. Otherwise, I get errors. Okay, that should work. So it's saved. Reload the glyph. So you can see now that here the tag left over or over top is being loaded, and that's still from the latest import from last day that it automatically adds left and right depending on where you tag on the outline. So if I would have tagged it in, within the like the inner point here, that one, I would have gotten a right over top. Okay, so I updated the temporary UFOs here on the left lower corner, and no, I didn't load. I have to rerun it. I always have to wait until it's finished, otherwise RoboFont is interfering with the updating procedure, and it would have to close all the files again. So I'm kind of waiting until the loop is through and then switch over.
Okay.
Okay, something is not right. So you can make here. Mistake with the underscore. Sorry about that. Okay, that got through, and switch to RoboFont and update. And this is still the original base, and now let's open the comments, and you can see that the stroke is now this little extra amount above the X height we defined before. And this without stretching or distorting the strokes, because it gets calculated in a proper way. Okay, of course you can also do some more fancy stuff, like let's see if this does something. Maybe I'm going to remove the over top here, otherwise it gets squeezed too much, probably. Okay, save the original and run it. this process allows me to make changes on the original drawings and get feedbacks on all the 4 masters and do some fine tunings on the original base again and reload it. Because the better for me, the better the base drawing is set, the less work afterward or retouch work I'll have in the end on the 4 masters. Okay, let's see what happened now. And now you can see that this deformation we did on the base now obviously had effect on all the 4 masters. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the nodes problem, then the overshoot, and this is the list I'm through. I did all the Unicode Devanagari today, and I'm working now with the non-Unicode. For that reason, I also have to add an extra Unicode to all the glyphs. So maybe you know better, but I'm using now the E department, right, which is private, right? So I'm using like E 04041 for the one that officially are not labeled with the Unicode, because I need a Unicode for Superpolator.
That seems very strange to me. Are you sure Unicode?
Well, it didn't show up. I mean, I'm using the test version of Superpolator, so maybe if you get the real, the official, if you buy the version, then the license, you won't have this bug.
Right.
Well, I'm kind of okay with to have a Unicode for all the glyphs, because it gives you some extra navigation tools. Okay, what else? So everything from the base font to these 4 masters is is within a loop. So that means I can always change some data in either CPS or the original base drawing. Now the only one-way procedure is the final kind of the retouching or the working on the details. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool to kind of compare the, let's make the example on that one, on the 0. So if I make a change manually, that means dragging a point around or a pair of points, I can compare these coordinates with the coordinates I got from the CPS, from the Metapolator. So if I compare those values, and I know where they are because I'm using the same structure, the same points, the same elements, so I can send this information back into the generic CPS setup and add those values as a parameter definition. So that means I would never lose something I'm changing manually, right? So if you drag any point here, like if it's an on point or a control point, it will get stored as a CPS parameter, because yeah. So this is something I really want to try within the next few days, and maybe with the help of Lasse. But I think a little bit of tweaking of the reload script I'm already working with. I guess it shouldn't be too hard to get this information back into the CPS system, and therefore allows me to change like global parameters. Like in the end, if you want to reduce the width or the weight tiny little bit, you wouldn't lose all the fine tuning, right? You wouldn't lose all the retouch. And I think this is if you would have this feedback loop closed within such a environment, that would really make sense, not only for me, but I guess also for other font designers. Because then we can really work with Metapolator already.
Yeah. It's kind of reminding me of the kind of make master from instance sort of functionality we discussed in the past.
Oh, here. Yeah. Okay.
Nice. Well, I think that's a great kind of preview of the workflow that you're currently using. I guess what could you say about how this is different to a traditional interpolation workflow?
Well, what's really different is that instead of copy pasting elements of the glyphs from the masters, I only have to copy paste or reuse fragments within my base glyphs, and in that way, I think the four masters get more unique, or I don't know if it's better, but the shapes gets kind of processed because of their base glyphs, and not because I'm copy pasting them from some other component. I think that's something different in what I experienced so far, and even with that kind of slow process or processing speed of Metapolator, I think it's way faster than if you would need to extend those weights and widths with traditional tools or by hand.
Okay, and is there the kind of metapolation between masters, is that producing different results to plain interpolation with this setup?
Not in my setup right now, because yes, no, it's only if I would specify some glyphs further than with my generic CPS, I can make exceptions for certain glyphs that behave differently in certain situations. For example, like a dot of an eye shouldn't scale in the same way as the period, and so on. Yes, I don't think it's the one example that we have seen from Lasse, where the metapolation really describes a different curve in. It's as if or that example from Lasse is more like if you would have some extra masters in between, right? Because so you start from A and you wouldn't go straight to B, so you go to A 0.5. No, not 8.5, but you go to D first, right? Yes.
Yeah,
code.
yeah. Okay, cool. Well, nice. So yeah, I guess maybe we can do a video with Lars and kind of look at his workflow and
Uh-huh.
see the differences. But yeah, so this has been great. Thank you for making the time, Simon.
Cool. Pleasure.
Okay, we'll see you next time.
See you. Bye.